Hey everybody, we just got the latest edition of the annual Social Security's Board of Trustees report, also just simply known as the Trustees Report. It tells us kind of about the financial state of Social Security and how the program's doing and things like that. And pre-retirees got some pretty bad news. We're going to get into that in just a second. Before we do, check out the link you see on your screen, fool.com/MattF. The average retiree leaves thousands of dollars of Social Security benefits on the table. We don't want that to happen to you. So be sure to check out that link. Again, fool.com/MattF, and I'll put it in the description of the video as well. So let me get right into it. Let me share my screen. All right. So, as I said, the latest report from the Social Security Board of Trustees was just released. And now here's the bad news. The combined trust funds are expected to run out of money in 2034. That is a year earlier than previously expected. Last year's report found that the trust funds were going to run out in 2035. And if specifically, it's three calendar quarters earlier than a year ago. So we're going to take a look at the highlights of the report that all people who are either currently getting Social Security or are currently working should know. So Social Security has two trust funds, technically. There's the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, which covers things like retirement benefits, spousal benefits, survivors benefits. That is projected to run out in 2033. There's a separate trust fund that funds the disability insurance program, and that one has plenty of money. That one is not projected to run out by itself. But we generally analyze this as two combined trust funds. It would take an actual change in the law to be able to actually combine them to use for the purpose of paying benefits. But combined, they would be expected to run out in 2034. If they run out, so here's the worst case scenario. If the trust funds run out, they could pay 81% of scheduled benefits from their continuing income. Social Security has three main income sources. It makes most of its money comes from payroll taxes, the taxes that you pay as part of your paycheck and that your employer pays on your behalf. If you're self-employed, you pay both sides, called the self-employment tax. That makes up the bulk of Social Security's income. It also gets some money from taxation of Social Security benefits. If you're a retiree and some of your Social Security is counted as taxable income, any tax charged on that goes right back into the program. And third, Social Security has funds in reserves. We'll mention that in a second. And it makes money on that in the form of interest. So here's kind of the financials of Social Security as they stand right now. So Social Security's income, this is what it brought in, $1.418 trillion in 2024. And you can see this is tax revenue that includes payroll taxes and taxation of benefits is about 1.35 trillion and $69 billion in interest income off of its reserves. The program's costs, that is the benefits flowing out of the program, were 1.485 trillion. That's a lot more than it's bringing in. Specifically, it was $67 billion more. That's a deficit that had to come out of the trust funds and bring the balance of that money down. So at the start of 2025, so this is after the 2024 deficit, Social Security had about $2.72 trillion in reserves. Now, this isn't money just sitting in a vault somewhere. It's invested. It's invested in Treasury securities, and that's where that $69 billion of interest income came from. The problem is that deficit, which you might just be doing the math in your head right now. Social Security ran a $67 billion deficit. You might divide that into 2.72 trillion and say, okay, Social Security's got plenty of runway. There's no way that it runs out in 2034. But the problem is that the deficits are expected to grow very rapidly. For example, the program's supposed to have something like $230 billion left at the start of 2024 and actually run out of money through the year because the deficit is so high. So what needs to happen? For the next 75 years, according to the new version of the trustees report, the deficit is about 3.82% of taxable payroll. So in other words, if the taxes you pay out of your paycheck and your employer pays were increased by that amount, which would be about a 1.9% increase for you and a 1.9% increase for your employer, if we did that, it would fix the problem. That's a pretty big tax hike. and it's very politically unpopular to just do that and call it a day. So that is not very likely to happen all by itself. There are a lot of potential solutions. I could do a whole 30-minute video on the different ways that we could potentially fix Social Security, but the most solutions fall into one of two categories of raising taxes or cutting benefits. Raising taxes, I mentioned that across the board payroll tax hikes are not popular. There are some more popular solutions like taxing the income of the highest earning people. Um, you might have heard that right now only up to a certain amount is taxable, but then creating another tax bracket. So after like $400,000 of income, anything you make above that is also subject to Social Security tax. There are some other ways to do it as well. As far as cutting benefits go, that doesn't just mean cut across the board benefit cuts, which is another very unpopular solution. I mentioned that the incoming revenue would be able to fund 81% of promised benefits after 2034. So if we just start paying out 81% of what we promised, then it would work. But that's really not popular in anyone's world. Um, but there are some more popular ones. Lowering benefits for the highest earners is one. Raising the full retirement age is a form of cutting benefits. Let's say going from 67, where it is now, to 68. Um, that would be another way we can potentially, make the program a little more financially sound. There are some other solutions. One that's often talked about is to invest that $2.7 trillion of reserves a little bit more aggressively than just have it sitting in Treasury securities. Um, but it's likely going to require some sort of combination of all of these. So that's where Social Security stands right now. I'm going to stop my share right now. Um, that's where things stand right now. It'll be really interesting over the next few years to see how we deal with this if we do. I'm hoping we don't get a last minute solution, which is actually exactly what happened last time Social Security was in trouble. It happened in 1983, and they made a whole bunch of changes at the very last minute. Social Security was just months away from running out of money at that point. That's why the full retirement age raised to 67. So I hope that Congress acts sooner rather than later. Um, but who knows what's going to happen? I'd love to answer any questions you have. Leave them in the comments here. And be sure to stay tuned right now for a message from the Motley Fool. Here's an interesting fact. Most retirees don't realize they could be missing out on almost $23,000 in extra Social Security benefits every single year. The truth is, Social Security has hidden strategies that can help you maximize your retirement income, but most people never take advantage of them. Luckily, our sponsor, The Motley Fool, has got you covered so you don't make that mistake. If you want to boost your benefits and retire with more confidence, go to fool.com/MattF right now to learn more about Motley Fool Stock Advisor.